Hello everyone and welcome back to another build guide. This one is going to be structured more around beginner to end game, so we're going to start off with some early game builds for you new players and then move on to veteran builds for veteran players that will take you into end game content. So let's just jump right into that. So Mag has some really cool ability synergy, so let's just talk about her abilities. Her passive gravitates enemies towards you, kind of like Pull by Carrier. Then she has her actual ability Pull, which will drag enemies and items towards you. That's just her first ability, not the greatest ability. Then Magnetize, which will, if used on an enemy, will create a bubble that drains all bullets, and then you can use it on yourself to kind of deflect some damage. It's not the greatest though. Polarize will release a wave of energy that will disable shields, and then also gives you slash shards, which we'll get into in the actual build and kind of explain that. But it's pretty interesting since the rework. It also restores your shields to the maximum amount, and then Crush, which will deal a big amount of damage in a radius, and will also give you lots of overshield, and then with some augments can do other effects. So if those abilities sound interesting to you, this is where you can get Mag. There's a couple of ways. First up, you can get Mag as your starter. She's probably not my personal pick, but I'll make a full video on who I think is the best overall starter. That will come out soon enough. But you can pick her as a starter, which is super easy. That was my pick when I started playing Warframe. Then you can get her from Duviri, because you can get anyone from Duviri. Not my recommendation. This is the worst way. Very few Warframes I'd say this, but this is definitely the worst way for Mag, because her third way is farming the boss, the Sergeant, on Mars, a very early planet, and the Sergeant is also the easiest boss in the entire game, so it should not take you very long to get Mag. So that's how I'd recommend you getting her, but if you want to play her off rip, if you're a brand new player, you can definitely get her as your starter. No matter what, Mag is definitely worth farming for and getting, even just for MR, so give her a shot, give her a try. Now let's get into these builds, starting with the early game beginner build. So this build doesn't have a lot to it. I just want to use it more as a foundation for you new players to go off of, because you're not going to have mods maxed out and whatnot. But Intensify, because you're going to want some power strength. Continuity, once you get it, you can use the broken continuity until then for some ability duration. This is for Magnetize. Flow for some extra energy, because Mag kind of has a low energy pool. Redirection, because the more shield you have, the more overshield you get from Crush. And then Stretch just for some range, because she's a very good CC. You can also use things like Augur Reach, Augur Secrets, and Augur Message to help boost some of those stats if you have some extra mod capacity. But I understand if you don't even have enough for some of these mods because you might not have an Auric and Catalyst, but just rework it how you want. That's just kind of like the basis. You can throw Vigor on instead of Redirection if you want for health and shield, or if you want to put Redirection and Vitality, that's perfectly valid. I just wanted to get you a start because Pull, Magnetize, Polarize, and Crush are all range. They all get affected by range, so it's good to have range on Mag. And then Power Strength will boost the damage of Polarize and Crush. And I'm pretty sure Pull and Magnetize as well. And then that's duration's only really for Magnetize, so you can definitely go without it, but it definitely has its uses. And Polarize will go out in a wider field. So yeah. Now let's get into the mid-game build for once you've kind of gotten some mods and whatnot. So this is basically just an upgrade from what we had before. Redirection has been replaced with Prime Vigor. This can just be Vigor if you want to. You also don't need Prime Sure-Footed at this point, but I kind of threw it in there if you have it. Steel Charge, because you should have a Aura mod at this point. Fracturing Crush, which is a very good augment for Mag. Fracturing Crush will make it so Crush will do Armor Strip, which is why you want some Strength, because it can 100% strip armor on all enemies. So basically, Crush will become your Grenier ability. You're going to use it on anybody, but it will become your Grenier killing ability, and Polarize will become your Corpus, because Polarize only really affects shields with very little armor strip, and then Crush doesn't affect shields, but will strip armor. So if you polarize the shields off Corpus, and then you can Crush for the overshield, you can crush the armor off of Grenier and you get overshield as well. But you're definitely going to want to grind Fracturing Crush. That's going to be a big part of this build and the endgame variant. So this is kind of your endgame all content build. I expect you to have most mods, the Hemless system, primed mods, all that stuff, arcanes, and this is kind of the build I figured was the best for all content with Mag. This is things like Netrocells and Void Cascades. Let's jump into what these mods do. Steel Charge, you can replace that with anything. I just use Steel Charge because of the extra mod capacity. Prime Sure-Footed because we hate getting knocked down. Transient Fortitude for the power strength, again, because this is Fracturing Crush Armor Strip. That's mostly what you use it for. Equilibrium for health and energy sustainment. You're really going to rely on the overshield, so just keep Crush coming. That's why we have Streamline for some extra efficiency. Prime Flow, so then we get that extra energy from Equilibrium. We can keep it in storage. Stretch for range, again, I mentioned why range is important. Fracturing Crush, already mentioned that. Prime Continuity for duration. This is kind of like a swappable mod, but I like having some extra duration and adaptation to increase our resistances. Arcane Aegis, because if you take shield damage, it has a chance to increase the speed at which you regenerate shields. This does not affect our overage shields, but you already have so much shield that it will increase the amount of normal shield you have. And then Arcane Rage, because when you take damage, you'll deal more damage. That's basically it. So that's definitely swappable, but I definitely think you should have Arcane Aegis. It should also be mentioned that we Hemlith Pull for Dark Verse is because Pull is not really that necessary. It's kind of a whatever ability. There's definitely some uses to it, but compared to the rest, not that good. But we did Dark Verse because I just want a little damage boost. Applying slash to your enemies when they're magnetized, and then you could do stuff like Conditional Overlord. Oh, it will boost your damage because stuff like Galvanize mods that will do more damage with the more stats effects. There's just some reasons to have Dark Verse on there for the guaranteed slash procs. You can definitely run something else like Gloom or Roar or just really anything you prefer, but I like having Dark Verse on there for my specific build. It doesn't really synergize that well with the rest of the ability kit here besides Magnetize, because you bring everyone together, hit Dark Verse once, then shoot some bullets in there, and everything should die relatively quickly. But yeah, this mag setup is definitely not a nuke build. You definitely could make a nuke, but Magnetize can nuke the whole map. It's just not a nuke setup. You're not going to click Crush and then watch everything die. Crush is more of a defensive ability, kind of like how Volt's Captains will make Discharge more of a CC defensive ability. Finally, we have more of a niche build. This keeps most of the setups here. There's actually a couple of them because of the different mods here that you can run. I'm using Magnetized Discharge as a mag augment instead of Fracturing Crush. This will make it so Magnetize has a chance to disarm on the explosion, and it boosts the range of Magnetize, which is probably her best overall ability. Then I put Mind Control on her first ability and put Mind Freak, which is a huge boost of damage to your ally. This is more just me messing around. You could do any Helmleth ability there, kind of like how I said you could do with the first build, but it's fun. It's an interesting little build here. So give it a shot if you want. If you're not, that's probably true. There's also a Polarize augment that's really good that disarms enemies and disables robotics, I think it is. Which again, if you want just like a Corpus setup, Polarize is already good against Corpus, but if you want like a real good Corpus setup, that Polarize mod really sets that up like that. So I still think Fracturing Crush is the best overall augment, but if you want to do 2 augments or whatnot, like that one for the Corpus, or have like a Corpus build where you have your Bane of Corpus on your weapon or whatever, Mag definitely has some specifics so you can bring her into different missions. So give it a shot. I'd recommend using all of her augments, but definitely get Fracturing Crush first because that is a great augment. The Armor Strip is amazing and allows you to have more freedom because you won't have to put like Terrify on the build because you have Armor Strip innately in your abilities. So in conclusion, Mag is one of my favorite Warframes. As I mentioned, I started off playing this game using Mag, really just because my friend had chosen Volt and my dad, who got me into Warframe, chose Excalibur, so I wanted to be different, so I chose Mag. She definitely has like hundreds of different playstyles you can try with her. She can be a CC defensive nuke. She can, you could full on go Magnetize and just bring everyone to one area and cause an explosion that kills everything. You can focus on the shields and Crush to boost your shields to crazy high levels and just make it so you never die. You can run Polarize against Corpus and have it be the Corpus killer. There's hundreds of different playstyles with Mag. I tried to make the endgame build more for all content, but there's definitely thousands of ways you can try to make Mag work and make her build setups go. So definitely give her a shot. She's also really good super early or super late game, and she can be very viable. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with another Warframe video. I have hopefully a video talking about all 3 of the starters on which you should pick as a new player from a veteran's perspective. But if for some of you who might not be interested in that, I have some weapon guides and some more Warframe guides coming out soon. Alexa, shut up. Oh, she's going to respond to me now. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all next one. Subscribe, like if you enjoyed. Bye-bye. If you guys want to catch me live, I'm live. I try to be live like 3 times a week. Link will be down in the description. I play Warframe and other games on there, depending on what I'm feeling like. So yeah, check me out.